Folks, it is Monday morning, Monday afternoon, maybe Monday night, depending on when you're watching this thing. Another week, another collection of the Bert on YouTube. It feels like I've been doing this for years now. I've actually been doing it for 6 shows. This is just the second week of this, but every time I introduce it, it'll be like you've been here for 15 years. We've got a lot to get into, and by that I mean we've about 4 matches to review. But at least they're fun ones. They'll be interesting to talk about. So, how is everyone today? Hope I'm coming through well. Hope you can see me. Hope you can hear me. Hope you can see me. I see Elliot's fired up. It's a good. How would that be? I'm trying to figure out how that sounds in a sort of chant. I wish we had, we need to take more kind of elaborate, I think, from a crowd chanting perspective. Bert is good, but it's very one note, right? You need to do the fist, the pump fist, and all that deal. Okay. Hester says, "Good morning, pals. I'm still half hot over the end of Rampage. Choices were made. Certainly, choices were made. I don't really know what the deal is with the Scorpio Sky thing. Some people are much more optimistic than I am. Some people, some very, very close to me in this very, very circle, have threatened a potential TNT title change in LA. I'll not comment on that here. I'll let the man himself do it when he feels comfortable doing so. But I don't know. I don't know what they're doing over there, and I really do think. And I was actually talking with a pal about this on Saturday. I really do think, in terms of average quality, AEW is its highest clip ever. I really believe that. There's been like one Dynamite in the last 2 months that has been that has fell short of very good to me. But there are certainly elements of the stories and the general storytelling directions that are. I wouldn't call many of them alarming. This one might count as alarming, but that are just kind of maybe needing a little help, maybe needing a little TLC. So the TNT title is one of them. I honestly think the majority of the title situations are not exactly where you want them to be, but we'll get into much of that in the coming weeks and so on and so forth. Double or Nothing is 2 weeks ahead, but just to quickly touch on it, because I know not all of you behind the paywall, yeah, the Scorpio situation is not ideal. Alan says, we're getting a build up to the Europa League final here. Who needs wrestling? I'll be honest with you, man. There's a time in my life where I could have done that, and it probably would have been good audio. Time is long gone, brother. I don't even know who's in the Europa League final. I wish I did. I'm aware West Ham are not, but no clue. Willing to talk about football as of late. Not willing to tell you that I know anything I'm talking about, though. I'm way out of the loop. Doing this deal really siphons off other interests, and football is one for me that just got killed off by talking about professional wrestling 6 days a week or whatever we do at this point. But God bless you, Alan. Hang on a second. Rangers, right? Is that the perspective we're coming here? Okay, go. All hell. There is some basketball talk. I'll talk about that later because I do feel I have to make a public comment because, there was some hurtful things said, some terrible things done to my grin, and we'll tackle all of that very shortly here. Glasgow Rangers, shout out to you, Alan. Good for you guys. Okay. Let's talk Capital Collision. Piranha Heat was at the show on Saturday. God bless them all. How great show to be at. It really was a tremendous show. Let's do something here though that we do on all of these kind of secondary, and I say that with love. This one had a lot of AEW influence, but if it's not an AEW show on this particular platform, I'm always intrigued how many people actually watched it. We have just over 20 in here. Chat, did you watch New Japan Pro Wrestling Capital Collision? If you didn't, is it because of Fight TV woes or just because you don't care? Either way, it's fine with me, but I'm intrigued as to how many of you actually watched this show we're about to talk about here, because this one has a lot of New Japan crossover. So I'm intrigued. Let me tweet this link. Okay, a much better turnout here than we usually get. Some people skipped some stuff, but mostly it seems like folks were kind of locked in. All right. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, cool. Well, let me get into this. Talk about some of these matches in particular. I'm not going to review this in a kind of rigid match by match format, simply because honestly, I think with the way they do their shows, they really make it easy for someone like myself to just pick out the stuff that's worthwhile. I watched all of it. I watched it live, um, and I thought it was a hell of a show. But there was, main talking points that we can get into. And I guess we'll start with the biggest one here, which is Eddie Kingston, Tomohiro Ishii. Before I do this, folks, if you expect to like this video, do one of those thumbs up gimmicks, and then if it sucks, like take it off. It could. And also, if you have would you like to send a tip, maybe a comment, a question, streamlabs.com/late night grin. I hope I'm still coming through okay. Sometimes when I pull up the tips page, it does that. But okay, let's talk about this. Eddie Kingston, Tomohiro Ishii, a match that had a lot of hype in this kind of bubble of like nerddom, right? Two guys that are very much Ishii feels like the king, the perfect king counterpart when you talk about who Eddie Kingston is in AEW. Ishii feels like he's been there in New Japan for some time now. The tough, respected, ultimately often unsuccessful top guy who brings you, you can kind of rely on that flavor that he's going to give you, right? Straight ahead, physicality, intensity, and, some violence sprinkled in along the way. These two are kind of made for each other in that regard. In fact, this feels like, and still may be, honestly, this feels like and still may be the Forbidden Door match. Honestly, it kind of feels like the natural matchup for both guys on respective rosters. I don't think that'll be the case, but it wouldn't shock me if they run it back. To be totally honest, it would be perfect as the opener. But again, that's another conversation for another day. So it's a natural matchup, and certainly to cut out any imaginary tension that you guys definitely don't feel right now, it certainly delivered on that. I do have some takes that may surprise some of you. I don't know, but I have some takes I want to share along the way. Firstly, in terms of that aforementioned physicality, wow. Eddie Kingston is like a famed chop guy. I think everyone's aware of how hard that dude hits, and there's even in recent memory on kind of a mainstream level, the Danielson match where his chest was just red almost immediately. It felt like he even leveled up here and was trying to make a point of it, didn't it? I mean, those first ones, it was like a gun going off. It was absurd. Ishii doing what he does and kind of not registering until it overtakes him completely, and he takes a back bump out of nowhere, which is like, he's such a genius of that sell. He sells in a way that honestly, if you were new to him, you would accuse him of no selling. And then before you know it, he's like stumbling all over the place, and he's completely overcome by the by the licks he took so far. So that was what you had here. You had guys trading strikes, and Eddie is very animated, very colourful, and he pairs every shot with like a sound effect and a grunt and an insult, and some commentary along the way. He has all the wacky facials that we love about Eddie Kingston, and you have Tomohiro Ishii, who's like unmoved and unfazed no matter how hard you hit him. He has the ultimate poker face, right? Sometimes to almost comedic levels when he'll do the great sell of like, you really just slapped me across the face. Bad idea. So that's the kind of contrast within what is a natural kind of matchup stylistically, and it worked. It worked really, really well. Especially a couple of moments in particular, the kind of standout slap exchange there in the middle, I'd say it was, where the King eventually was like going to the body, and that was a really nice kind of encapsulation of who these dudes are, and it looked great, and stuff like that. That was a big hit. The best moment of the match I thought was the big strike exchange late, because they actually had kind of, as much as they've been throwing bombs the whole time and trading chops and trading, that was the first time where it felt like things truly exploded in terms of like power shots, right? The slaps one thing. But this was one where it actually felt like it exploded with the back fist, and Ishii basically just bracing himself and being like, let's see how hard it is. I don't know. I don't know if that's what they were going for. I think King took a little longer on his rotation than he'd like. But it looked like the way they shot it that Ishii just saw the back fist come and was like, well, I guess we'll see how this feels. He took it, he did a headbutt, and then King hit another one, and Ishii fucking took this sell that Ishii did on this second back fist is like peak Tomohiro Ishii. Dropped straight to his knees like I'm hit by, I tweeted it was like Randy Couture getting hit by Chuck Liddell's right hand in fucking 06. Immediately down to his knees and like face first. Awesome stuff. Really, really good match. Ishii gets the win, which I think is kind of surprising. Not really. That's kind of the value of King, is that he's a guy you can kind of throw over on these shows and he can lose. I will say, and this may be crazy to some of you, maybe I'm being unfair by saying that, perhaps this is more of how highly I think of King. I think they can have a better match than this. I would actually go as far as I think they can have a much better match than this. That's just me. I thought there were clear moments where the pace lulled, and I think both guys are better than that. And frankly, I was surprised by how kind of aimless Eddie's stuff on the arm was. That's very un-Eddie Kingston. And now I say that while saying this was a really, really good match. And, I'm not a star ratings guy, but it's, in that 4-star range. And it was really, really good. Let me stress. I think everyone knows how I'm not being biased against Eddie Kingston of all people. I think they can have a better match. I think they can have a more complete match. I think they can have a match that's more consistent in ideas. I think they can have a match that's paced better. So on and so forth. I will say, though, that if they can't, I think this may actually be a case, and this is a weird thing to say after all the praise I just put on this match. In some ways, I think these guys may be too similar. And let me, stress, I thought the match was really, really good, maybe borderline great. But I actually think there is something to be said for pairing this archetype, the straight ahead, tough bruiser, with the pure wrestler, with the classical top guy. Which, for easy comparisons as of late, when you pair an Ishii with a Tanahashi, when you pair an Eddie with a Danielson, I think you bring out different flavors and different elements that, wasn't here because these guys are basically mirroring each other in a lot of ways. I say all that to say I thought it was really, really good. I'd be, if I was a cage match gentleman, I'd probably be in, 8 to 9 range, probably more on the former. But I was really good. I think they can have a better match. Maybe we'll see them have a chance. Wouldn't surprise me if we did, honestly. I'm not sure that would be Forbidden Door. It wouldn't surprise me if they run it back by any means. But I am intrigued by the idea that maybe, just maybe, these two are actually too comparable physically in it. Where one guy would rather be on the cell and be in the underdog, they kind of share that role, right? Both guys that often will give a lot of the match, and there were just a couple elements that wrinkles that I think they could do better with next time. But really, really good. It delivered. It was certainly worth my time, certainly worth my money. So big thumbs up. Another strong outing for King on the kind of wider wrestling stage. He's been on this now for what we're looking at, just shy of 2 years. I think at this point, for the most part, he's silenced doubters and such. For Ishii, 3 straight weeks of strong matches. Hilariously, this was probably his weakest of the last 3 weekends. Again, now I'd say that being full awareness, and to be clear, I've only seen parts of the Tanahashi deal. I'm going to try and get back in on New Japan, but from what I can gather, that was clearly the best of the matches he had. Actually, I think it's like, you count the Suzuki match, it's like 4 of the last 6 weekends or something. So, yeah. Ishii is a monster. We talked about it on the Under Siege review not long ago. It was last week. And King is, Eddie Kingston. That was my favourite match of the night. I will say, though, it was certainly challenged by the George Alexander match was very good. It was certainly challenged by the main event, which I thought was admirable in sheer stylistic choice. And let me pull up this card here on the famed cage match. I I think King is in one of the 6 man team with Santana and Ortiz. I don't think he's going to get a big enough name. Going to be a big enough name to get a singles match. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that's why they did it here. But I wouldn't write out a rematch, but I wouldn't expect it personally. Okay, I pulled up the cage match, so I wanted to see what else I've got to talk about here. So the main event, which was the IWGP US title, Juice, Tanahashi, Moxley, Ospreay. I was really intrigued what this would look like. And a part of me thought, yeah, you're going to get kind of spot heavy. I mean, that complimentary here. But, move heavy, all action, everyone's favorite shit and flips. And Tanahashi will do his weird, thing where he does his exact offense as usual, but just has two people do it like he does on the Dragon Screw. So I thought there was a chance, but I will be completely honest in saying that I also thought it was equally possible these guys just go 35 minutes and work this fucking epic with different acts, and one guy's out at this time, and then there's a table spot that takes him out. I thought that was possible. I didn't think that was necessary though, and I will say I was delighted to see them instead just do 15 minutes of their coolest shit, sequenced. Very seldom do guys feel completely out of the picture. There's a couple of times where you have to do it just by sheer necessity, but most of the time it felt like guys, were involved and there was a reason for their absence. If not, there was very few times where I watching the match going, "Where's this guy at?" They only went, and I say only because these are four of their top guys, or 3.5, whatever you want to call it, just shy of 16 minutes, which I think, knowing the promotion and knowing the talent, I think it's kind of a miracle, honestly. And I say that to say, it was completely at the strength of the match. It was a complete advantage of the match that they went that time. It was absolutely action-packed. I have to say, Moxley and Ospreay have a palpable chemistry and connection in ring. They're really, there's something there with those guys. Their match at Windy City Riot was really, really good. Again, I think they could do a lot better, and obviously the finish was frustrating for a range of reasons. Especially if it was intentional. Frankly, I find that almost more frustrating, which I think increasingly the evidence is it was. But they have a certain chemistry. Tanahashi, bless his heart, this isn't really the match that's going to be his strengths, right? At this point where he's at physically, he's, more. He was always a storytelling first guy. He was never particularly physically, striking to the he'd hit guys and stuff. High fly flow is beautiful, but you get what I mean. This isn't the match to showcase his great strengths, but he brought it, man. The table spot looked brutal. That table fucking exploded. Tiny little thing blew up in pieces. So yeah, I thought this was very, very good. Juice Robinson being the winner was hilarious, but I remember on the Wrestle Periods podcast last week, good brother Manny was like, he goes, "I don't think Juice can take this full," and Monty and I were kind of, well, good luck. You look at the guys he's in the ring with. But the more we talked it through, we had a couple-minute conversation about it. It's like, actually, Tanahashi's wrestling Moxley at Forbidden Door, right? And we all agree that's a lock. So it's like, does Moxley really want to have this belt again? Is that really what he needs to be having anyway? Probably not. He's probably beaten Tanahashi though, right? So it's like, well, I assume they're going to get the belt off of that situation. Now, I say all this knowing that they could easily just have fucking Juice drop that thing back at Dontaku. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Wouldn't shock me one bit. It's exactly what they've been doing with this belt anyway. But I do think there's a chance they want the US title outside of that situation. And they want to continue this Ospreay thing, which quite frankly is kind of lame with him being screwed and messed with it. I don't think it's any good. But it didn't shock me after I thought about it a little bit. Now, do I think it was the right decision? I don't know about that. I don't know how much this belt really matters, though. And, Juice is a good wrestler, and I'm happy for him that he's got something to sink his teeth into, something he can have fun with. The Bullet Club is a thing they're trying to do, man. They're trying to make this thing matter again. I don't know, what the kind of returns on that are business-wise in Japan. I assume they're good because they keep doing it. To me, it's hard to get too interested. I ain't going to lie. There's very little of me that's like, man, let me see this next chapter of the Bullet Club story. But, if it's making money for them at home, and I guess they still sell T-shirts in America, I would assume, then God bless. But yeah, just put a bar on the main event. I thought it was really, really good. is better than I thought. They made the right choices. Ospreay looked spectacular. So did Moxley. It's another one for Moxley that we're going to put on the list. He is building this wrestler of the year case. We're only in May, I'm aware. But, lest we forget, the way we had to, the way we were rightly talking about Mox at the start of the year, we all just wanted to see him back whenever he was ready, right? I mean, he came back, the end of January? And he's very quickly building a case here. Not to say he missed a lot of the year, obviously. I'm not an idiot. But what I'm saying is, I think a lot of us were just happy if he, just felt good getting back in there. He looks fucking great. He really is, in my view, in the form of his life. I don't think he's ever been a better wrestler than this. He's putting a lot of thought into his matches. He looks great physically. His strikes are more physical. I don't know, man. Mox is he's clicking big at the minute. Joe says, how does the top heel consistently getting screwed help anybody? I don't know. And I also think the way he portrays it is so brutal. As I open this Pepsi Max here, one thing I will say is this is an unfair question to ask me, Joe, because we regularly screw over Bobby O'Neill on this platform. But I get what you mean. Hang on a second, folks. Now, here's the thing with this Ospreay situation, because I see a lot of discourse. I'm not going to tell you for a second, for a minute, that Will Ospreay isn't a great wrestler. In fact, there is increasing evidence that he is more than a great wrestler. He is an exceptional, extraordinary wrestler who can do insane things, and his stuff connects with live crowds, whatever. I'm not here to push back on any of that. I will say, and I know this doesn't matter to everyone, and frankly, it doesn't always matter to me. Depends on what the ratio is. I mind some of his character, which I hate going that direction anyway. But I'm just being honest. Some of those quirks I find to be honestly kind of infuriating, and I'm aware that means he is in fact doing the heel thing. I have to explain to me he's getting heat, but in actual fact, it makes me legitimately less interested in who he is and what he's doing. I find some of his body, his body language and facial expressions to be very counterproductive. He is very showy as a wrestler, and that's fine because he has the offense to back it up. I wish he was less so as a personality, frankly. I don't really know what he's supposed to be at this point. And to Joe's point, I don't know what the story is either. I don't get it. I don't really think the way he conveys it in promos and such, I do not think is the best encapsulation of what they're trying to do anyway. I think it's a bad idea with the wrong talent. Now, I say all of this to say that Ospreay was clearly the star of this match, and I think he's clearly a great wrestler. But some of that stuff, I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm on board with this presentation, but that's just me. Okay. Ospreay to me is what the weirdos say Omega is. Yeah, I definitely think there was elements of that with Omega. I don't know. I never was as put off by his shtick as some were, but I definitely got why people kind of had frustrations with his wackiness, and such. I don't know. It's all taste, right? But I get your point for sure. Okay. Let's look elsewhere here. A match that actually is rated a lot lower than I would have thought, but I think probably the length hurts it on this sort of, it's got a 6.53. A match I really, really liked, Brody King and Minoru Suzuki, which is one that I kind of mulled over in terms of what this is going to look like. I mean, I knew we were going to get the big, bruising chop exchange to lead. I was sure of that. But once this thing settles down, how long it did settle down, you can debate that among yourselves. But, I was kind of intrigued what this looks like how this thing will come out. And I actually thought they just had a really, really smart, it was a sub 10-minute match, which big thumbs up again. This show is paced beautifully. That was really effective. I think they could have used the bridge to the finish that made it more kind of natural, which I'll get to in a second. But just to kind of generally capture it, they go into the chop exchange. And the idea to me was that you know, Brody King hits really hard. Really, really hard. So after a few of these, Suzuki was like, well, fuck this. This is bad. You know, he weighs like 100 pounds more than me. He keeps whacking me in the chest. So he starts going after the hand and he manipulates the fingers some. And this is where like Suzuki is able to wrestle until this point in his career and will probably be able to wrestle as long as he intends to. Because I think he's like 53 at this point and the dude's fine. He's like, he doesn't just work a guy's hand, right? He's like looking out at the people with this sinister, like, this sinister grin as if to say, oh, he's fucked now. He's got no chance now, you know, and he works the hand, fingers, and they brought it to the floor, and Brody King throws another chop, and it's a spot that's been done to death. Volta did it in every fucking match for about 2 years, but he did it, at least he did it hard. Brody chops the post, and now his hand is really in trouble. And Suzuki's popping huge. He's like celebrating this. He's walking behind Brody like a horror movie character with a big grin on his face. And he's working the fingers and the hand and all this stuff. And then, like, once he's confident that Brody's fucked, he's like, okay, do some more of these chop exchanges, you know? And he's like offering his chest out, like, oh, you're a coward. And Brody tries his left, he throws some forearms, then he thinks that chopping, but he can't help himself, you know? Suzuki's offering him a free shot. He ain't used to guys doing that to him. He's Brody King, so he's throwing him and he's selling. Big shout out to Brody King, who is just, and Elliot says the overall fault from this that TK needs to let Brody King wrestle more. Brody King is a great example of, like, even if he wasn't that good, he would pop me because the idea of him is incredible. Like the way he looks and his name and everything, like it's fun to me. At some point in the last, like, because I don't think it was always this way, to be totally transparent, but at some point in the last like 2-3 years, to me, he became like actually very, very good. His selling here was great. And he was locked in and focused, and he didn't just throw stuff away. Like, he made everything matter. Some of his sells on the strikes were really good because it's hard to do that stuff as a big man without looking goofy, and I thought he pulled it off. You know, where he'd be like stumbled, and it's hard to do. He did it here multiple times, and I thought he put in a really, really good performance, and I agree with Elliot. I think he has to wrestle more. Him and Buddy both. I think at this point in the House of Black is actively like, limiting them. And I understand people like the law, and if you like it, God bless you. I mean, that's great. But I think there has to be a kind of middle ground here. It has to be a balance, right? I mean, these are guys who are just going to get over more wrestling. I don't think either of these guys are going to get over the same way as spooky backups. They can do that. I think you got to let them kill some guys. And I understand it's hard because not every, a lot of these guys on the roster have nothing to fall back on if they aren't wrestling. The House of Black don't have that. But their angles are just rough. I don't think it's the best use for them. That's another conversation. I can't talk about Green. I think Malachi's run's been pretty disappointing. But that's just me. Anyway, back to this match. So he's selling and he's selling and Suzuki's kind of got control of it. And then like at the end, Brody just like lariats him and Suzuki kind of falls down. As Paul says, it's a very funny bump. And then he hits him a couple more and just hits the Gonzo. And it's like, it ruled because I didn't think Suzuki would necessarily take that finish because, I mean, understandably at this point in his career. But it did pop me that like their transition to the finish was just like at some point Brody just got bored and just like hitting him with lariats. I was like, well, I wish they'd have put a little more thought into that, but also you could argue that rules because fair, right? Big dude. She totally wanted to hit him. Makes sense. I actually really, really like the match. I'm not saying it's a classic. I'm not saying it's a 4-star match or anything. I was really, really smart and efficient, and it did exactly what it needed to. And Suzuki continues to amaze me in just terms of how you can take what is effectively the exact same match and just add like a couple different wrinkles to it, and it feels fresh and fun, especially in front of a crowd that's happy. I mean, they're all happy to see him, but when he seems, when it's a particular action, like the way they was chanting his name at the start, he was really cool considering he's wrestling guys on AEW TV, So I like this a lot. Thought he over-delivered. And this was kind of the way they transitioned from the multi-mans to the big singles matches, and the big time stuff. So it was basically perfect. Folks, it is 3:30 in Great Britain, 10:30 Eastern time for my American pals. And usually at this time, we would see the Bert line, which is a sports broadcast featuring Robert O'Neill, in which he runs down the fixtures and then closes with a prediction, a lock, so to speak. By so to speak, I mean that's literally what he calls it. He gives you a fixture that you maybe could place a couple cent on, perhaps, maybe $1 even. And you win, you lose, you blame Bob, you don't credit him, so on and so forth. I this morning woke up, as I always do, 12 hours before showtime, and had my emails in front of me and was hitting refresh every minute, just hoping that eventually this Bert line was going to come through. I did not get contacted by Bob. I was not informed of any kind of technical difficulty or any reason in particular he could not do this. So I just sat there, refresh. And then around 15 minutes before showtime, I see a tweet from Bobby. He has added JJ, Double J, with some form of explanation. Now, I'm not going to repeat it here because, he can go fuck himself. But it was something to the effect of he is still workshopping what he's going to do when there is no basketball, whatever else on baseball, whatever sports he still pretends to watch. And I would just have to say that we've been doing the late night grin now in some form or fashion for around 9 months, owned, by the way. And I've seen some things in my time. I would have to say this has got to be the most unprofessional act that this very brand has ever experienced. I don't know what we should do. I'm thinking suspension. I'm thinking fine. Honestly, I'm thinking we fire him. But if there wasn't so many terrible professional wrestling platforms that would immediately give him a job, I would do so. But unfortunately, we're not that lucky. I say professional wrestling platforms, sports platforms. Opening himself up at this point. He's too valuable to fire. But he has been fined. No suspension because I'm not doing fair dead alone. But just wanted to make it clear. We apologise for those of you that are gambling men and women that wanted to see Bob's lock of the day. I was hoping he was going to do something with like darts or snooker, cricket maybe. Not the case. So there you go, folks. I do apologise for the lack of Bert line. Okay, let's go back to the Capital Collision event. Okay, we have what else do I want to talk about here? Bullet Club versus Chaos. This was a slight bummer in that Trent could not work this match. And that's a shame because Trent is actually, he's one of the most underrated wrestlers out there, right? We talk about it regularly on the Late Night Grim. We review Rampage that Trent is absolutely as reliable as it gets, works incredibly hard, so on and so on. He's great. Trent's great. However, I do have to say, I'm checking my social media here because there is some. I was surprised people about MJF. All right. Okay. My bad, folks. I was slightly distracted there. Ric Flair's doing a match at Starcast. Sorry to hear that. Oh God, is that where that's taking place? Oh dear. Trent's great. It was a bummer to see him out of this. But as soon as they announced Rocky, I was like, well, I hope Trent gets better soon. I'm sending love his way. But if there's one guy that I'm happy with in his place, it's Rocky Romero. And I think this match pretty perfectly captured why. Listen, folks, if you watch the New Japan product at any point in your wrestling fandom, you know what this match was intended to be. The road to main event, building to the actual big title match, which is only weeks ahead. Champion versus challenger with a power there that can get pinned alongside each of them. That's what this match is. This one has a couple of different elements because, as Paul mentions, Okada got like a mega reaction. And it is in the US, and it's just slightly different, right? It's a different deal. Firstly, it isn't the main event. It's going in between a knockdown, drag-out singles and a fatal four-way thriller. So you had a couple more things to it. And they did, the finish was extended. But to me, this was just a living, breathing example of how great Rocky Romero is. I would tell anyone, seriously, to go and watch the last, I would say it's 2 minutes of this match. Not because they do anything you haven't seen before. Not because they do, kind of these innovative sequences. There are a couple of them. Most of the things you've seen guys do, you've seen, in some form or fashion for a long time now. Very simple counters, very simple near falls. And generally in this match kind of genre, the guy who's getting pinned will have like a little shine before, some hope spots before he gets pinned. But it was so well done here. And the timing of Rocky and Jay White on this little exchange was just absolutely beautiful. Again, you may go and watch it after I put it over like this and say, what was the, what was Sam Perez about? Chat, you may not even know what I'm talking about. But seriously, God, this was fluid. And Rocky has that wonderful like uppercut punch, and Jay was selling it like a fucking like Jake Roberts taking one of Ricky Steamboat's chops. Just swaying with it. And the counters and like it was just so smooth. Two great wrestlers completely in lock with each other, and Rocky's sheer energy and just like popularity wherever they go is a massive asset. Obviously, he's doing way more things than wrestling at this point. So when you see him, you can kind of assume he's going to get pinned, but he's always a pleasure to watch. I thought this was really, really good, and Hikuleo was there. God bless him. Good question from JJ. Let's poll the chat on this. We have over 30 here. Let's poll the chat. Is Jay White going to beat Okada at Wrestling Dontaku? Massive Forbidden Door implications on that one, folks. So what do we think? Title change coming up here at Dontaku. What we got? I'm very intrigued by this match. I'm going to try and review that one for sure. Week after Double or Nothing, right? Let's try and do that one. Remind me, folks. Someone whose favorite wrestling is 92 WF with his pop me. Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. It's good. I mean, it will pop you in like it's good pro wrestling. I don't think it will be like pumping your fist and stuff. That piece of shit Wrestle Purist says Jay White should win, to be honest. The way they reintroduced Bullet Club kind of calls for it. Seems like they're all in again. I think Jay White wins. A couple no's in there too, but with Mathis, I don't think so. I like how complex this is because as much as he's a piece of shit, Wrestle Purist is correct. They've done this in a way where you kind of feel like Jay White almost should, be the victor, right? I mean, the Bullet Club thing is the focus right now. Clearly, that was how they closed the last show. It feels like that's how if you're gonna do it right, right? That's the way to approach this. But what makes it more interesting is that's one thing, that's one debate, but the Forbidden Door part makes it like kind of nuts. Because if people really think we're getting Okada and Punk, which I'm not saying I do, that's what everyone's talking about. It's like, is that most likely if both guys lose their upcoming title matches? Like, I guess it is, right? I don't know. It's weird. Buzz Mafia says, I just don't see Jay White needing the title going into the elite stuff more than Okada staying champ going into these dream matches. I agree with this in a kind of idyllic way, but you could equally say Jay White's probably going to be hidden in that elite stuff, so they don't have to worry about the politics of the champ. So there's a lot of weird pieces at play here. Graham says, I think Bullet Club helps Hangman beat Punk. Oh man, I hope not, Graham. I'm not saying it's a bad comment. I think they may be right, but I'd rather they not do that personally. I'm all cool with Bullet Clubs up bleeding over, but not on that level. That'd be a bummer. Okay. Nonetheless, a couple last things here I want to hit. Good to see Great O'Khan get a big reaction. I've got you, Graham. I'll just, you alarm me with that. You may be right. Okay. Great O'Khan. It was good to see him get, the big reaction he got. That was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, he was wrestling Chase Owens and lost. Couple last things. Jonah and Jeff Cobb did a hell of a job with their deal. They really, really did. I thought, the way they built that and they made it clear to anyone who is not locked into these shows and maybe bought for Eddie Kingston or John Moxley, they made it very clear that this is something you might want to see when they run it back as a singles match. So big thumbs up in that regard. Jonah, I've said this before, we have a lot of fun and do bits here with him, but he's done a good job of kind of shedding his friendly giant element that he had in WWE and has actually kind of had before that in some ways, but especially in WWE. He's a lot more kind of, you know, formidable here, imposing here. And Cobb, I mean, that dude brings it, right? And you know what you're getting with him. And I thought they did a good job and they got a great reaction for it. So I assume that we booked at some point, and when it is, it'll be a lot of fun. So good stuff there. The opener, or the opener that I saw apparently, because Nick Comoroto wrestled Kevin Knight on the pre-show, which is pop. Cole Frederick and Ren Narita killed it. Really, really good match. Again, and I'm looking at the times here. Longest match on the show was King and Ishii. And Eddie Kingston has the longest match on the show. On your show, you've paced that thing in a way very, very generously to Joe Holbert's grin. So, absolutely, thoroughly enjoyed this show. I do not know if it has a. In fact, I'm going to go as far. I do not think it has a match of the year candidate on it, which I understand for this brand that is actually like a thing. You know, it caps the ceiling somewhat. There's no way I'm going below an 8 on this thing, though. I thought this was a blast. I thought it flowed beautifully. I thought there was some really, really good wrestling on it. I froze, but chat. If you did see Capital Collision, please give me a rating in the chat out of 10. Not me. I mean, like, you know, give me a rating of Capital Collision out of 10. I'm around a 6 today. I'm intrigued. I thought the show was really, really good. Mad King says it's going to be wild to see Oracle and Shoot reviewing an AEW New Japan joint pay-per-view with you this summer. Yeah. That'll be interesting. I'm intrigued where everyone's excitement levels out on that when it comes around. Like, I am very intrigued by that. Do you think Forbidden Door will be coherent with TV or just a one-off super show? Mostly just a one-off super show. You may get a couple of angles, but I don't think it'll necessarily like bleed over the whole thing. I think it'll be more just try and maximize the kind of audience that's into it. Which, if you look at the Ring of Honor number, they did like 20,000. Like, there's probably a big audience that will buy that show if you don't do any build, honestly. So, what top New Japan guys does Oracle like? You asked that like that such a thing exists. I don't know. Maybe he likes Ishii. Doubt it, but maybe. Yeah, 8 seems to be the ballpark. 8.5s and makes sense to me. Piranha, I hope you had fun. Good show to see. You guys were loud. I don't know. I will say it was a very interesting venue they booked because it was big, and even though they sold most tickets they put on sale, clearly they had not opened the whole thing up, and it looked very. It was not the best visual on television. You guys were loud, which big props to you. You elevated the King and Ishii deal with your enthusiasm. I was slightly amazed at some of the choices they made visually. You know, I understand the way they want to shoot this wrestling, but like the way that this lighting was in that building, I don't know. But Ben is right, and it's worth bringing up. The production was actually efficient. There was a couple, for me anyway, tiny little mess ups. I don't think it was just because I checked the fight chat. There was one where the show like cut off for like a second. Here you go. It's the same venue AEW used for Dynamite and Rampage in January, but this setup was not the same. It was weird. It looked it, man, because you could see like the stands and the empty seats, but the way they lit it, it was like they were, I don't know. It was strange. Yeah, weird deal. Oracle hate Okada and Hiromu, but then love someone random like Dookie. Bro, would be the guy for him, the great Okan. Pop. Yeah, shout out to whoever actually produced this thing because it worked. Go Fight Live. Props to them. They finally figured out it's not actually Go Fight Live. Someone DM me and was like, hey man, Fight TV and Go Fight Live are different. And I was like, yep. I just thought it was funny. You know, I understand 2010 Ring of Honor references aren't for everyone though, so maybe that's on me. Okay. Thumbs up on Capital Collision. I want to have a couple last subjects here. We're going to go obviously the hour as usual. We've been 15 minutes. I'm open to answering some questions, but here's a couple of things I want to touch on very, very quickly because there was big news on the weekend. Big news. The world famous Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins fame sent a tweet. It was one of the most exhilarating moments of my life, to be quite honest with you guys, as he posted a selfie with CBS, those letters, that headquarters behind him, standing proud, standing tall. And I assume this was to hint at something. Now, for all I know, they're doing a Paramount Plus documentary about Smashing Pumpkins. I don't know. Who knows, right? Who could possibly? But the way I read this tweet was very different. And it was that the National Wrestling Alliance will soon be airing live every Monday night for 3 hours on CBS in prime time. So firstly, congratulations to them. But there is a late night green element to this that needs tackling. I talked about it on Twitter yesterday, and he's very excited about it. Our friend, Jack Crosby, who I've said some things about through the years, but I've always appreciated. He's been a good guy. Finally, he gets his shot at the big time. Now, as of this moment, I do not know. I haven't spoken to him in detail. I do not know if Jack is going to be the color commentator for NWA Primetime. I do not know if he's going to be the authority figure, the heel manager, the play-by-play guy. Let's not throw it out there, okay? But what I do know is, for the last 2 years, he's been watching that Power product closely. And I mean, note-taking 4 times a week, watching closely. And I hope all of you that watch this program can take some inspiration in the fact that after committing so much time to a brand that many deem dead, Crosby is going to win in the end. So I want to give shout out to Jack. Can't wait to see what he does. I really think he can unlock, I really think he can unlock Trevor Murdoch as his mouthpiece. Like, I think Trevor's great hand. But when you add Crosby in there as a disgruntled heel, I don't know, man. There's a lot here. I agree with this. Absolutely. Crosby being the middleman is his second greatest achievement after being a father. Factual. I'm just very proud of him. Very, very proud of him. And I hope things, work out. I hope it isn't a disappointment after all these years he's put into it. So, big shout out to my guy Jack. I know you're proud, but I want you to know that we're proud of you, pal. Okay. Now, a couple other things here. Chops, that wasn't a bit. I was very sincere. I've talked about the Bert line. A couple of housekeeping notes because a lot of people tweeted me on this and I was very frustrated. The worst thing I ever did on this show was make it clear to you guys that I do not like the Boston Celtics. However, I would like to defend myself. Slightly, just slightly. At no point did I dismiss the aforementioned Boston Celtics. In fact, on the contrary, I was very, very scared, actively fearful they would, in fact, make the NBA Finals and, dare I say it, win the NBA Championship. Now, to be clear here and reiterate some things, that has not yet happened. Last 4 standing. Some interesting basketball ahead, to be clear. But I would like to say that the Milwaukee Bucks, while they may be slightly undermanned and they didn't have Chris Middleton, which is, he's their second best guy, I guess. So, or, you can him and Drew, but whatever. He's their second guy, let's be honest. I would like to tell them they can go fuck themselves. They have now got me in a position where I'm rooting for the Miami Heat of all teams to beat the Boston Celtics and end this nightmare. But really what I'm saying is, please do not tweet me images, GIFs, or even thoughts of and about Al Horford. Do not mock me when I lash out on Twitter. I knew they were good. I said they're the best defensive team I'd seen with my own eyes, folks. Unfortunately, I wasn't just lying to myself. That appears to what's actually going on. I think they're the favourites to win it. Chat that is into NBA and cares, who is your pick to win the title? We got Miami and Boston on one side. We've got Dallas and Golden State on the other, which we'll get to in a second very quickly because I know a lot of you don't care, but my God. It is real, Russell Pierce. Come on, bro. It's very important. I have heard this. I have definitely that part's really interesting. Bob's a big fan, man. Big fan. Shout out to Melissa on the Dallas win. I didn't think I didn't think you guys had much of a chance in that series, and wow, that's the kind of loss you don't just come back from easy. I feel for Phoenix. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sit here and like overly focus on the losers, but in that particular situation, it's like, my God, that's quite the loss, right? That's the kind of thing that ends a team's era. I mean, it's only been a brief one; they've had a couple of years together, but that kind of feels like the end of that team to me as real contenders people fear. Dallas, look, I'll be totally honest, and I think people are going to immediately go in one direction. And I'm picking Golden State against Dallas, but that don't really mean anything because I picked Phoenix against Dallas too. I have to say that I think there are going to be people that are very dismissive of Dallas in this series that maybe haven't watched Golden State especially closely. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert. I don't know nothing about basketball. I try and watch the games. Try and listen to the few people that seem to know what they're talking about. I'm not too sure about, I think some people may be a little fooled by what Golden State has achieved thus far. I'm not saying they're not a good team. They are. They're a very, very dangerous team, obviously. Look at their lineup. I'm not sure that they're as currently set up and the way they're currently playing. I'm not sure they're a championship team. And do not be surprised if this thing is another bloodbath because Dallas, with Luka, all he needs is shooting on the floor, and that team's going to run up points. So I don't know. It'll be very, very interesting. I'm excited for it. The Heat were an early pick of mine to win the title. I'm increasingly reluctantly bullish on the Boston Celtics, but we shall see. It was good to have 2 Game 7s last night. I wish a couple of them were I wish one of them was competitive, but you get what you get. Boston game was very dramatic, and well, I guess the Phoenix game was certainly dramatic. What is this Ric Flair situation? I've seen people hinting at this. Someone said StarCast. Let's close with this because I was going to do some questions, but if there's actual news, then I guess we should. Oh my God, Bob's tweeting about it. I'm intrigued. Where can I find this, guys? Because I want to actually see what the story is. Is this actually an FTR thing? My God. He's back. Oh my God, he's tweeted. I probably got him blocked. Okay. The rumors are true. I'm going to walk that aisle, style and profile one last time. July 31st, Nashville, Tennessee. Jim Crockett Promotions. I'll prove once again that to be the man, you've got to beat the man. Well, hold on a second. Just rein it in with this Jim Crockett Promotions shit. What does that mean? What can that even mean? Oh my God. Mark Raimondi. He's reported it like it's like a real story. He said according to sources, and Rick quote tweeted, "Yep, this is definitely a." Okay, I'm seeing if they're actually. Okay, he's talking about this being his final match and whatever the fuck. Card on which Flair will perform July 31st will begin at 6:05 p.m. Big Holbert fan. An homage to the weekend's Hard Times with Jim Crockett. What the fuck? Why lie? Why lie? All right. Well, I'll say this, and listen, folks. I mean, make of this what you will. It's probably a good thing that it's on that kind of show where, I guess Conrad will be involved, and I guess that's better than him just taking a booking with some dude he's never met somewhere not vaguely big time. I mean, big time is very generous to script, but it at least seems like they're handling it as a big deal, and they've got it reported. Just it isn't just going to be some fucking poster of him and Nick Gage thrown out there for Philadelphia in a couple of weeks or something. There's a lot of extra stuff with Ric Flair that we've talked about on this platform and behind the paywall and everywhere else. And anyone that resents or dislikes that dude, I get it. You're correct too. Very, very flawed character. My immediate reaction personally is kind of alarmed. Seems actively dangerous to me, but I'm not an expert. I saw that he posted the Jay Lethal clip and put it on like 1.5 speed. It was like, yeah, it didn't look like it's the first run round. So I don't know. It seems nuts to me. It seems awful dumb, but I don't know the dude. And good luck to him, I guess. I mean, I guess, man. I don't know. Yeah, this is a good example. It's better than him wrestling Sammy in Dubai or whatever he was talking about. There you go. Spiteful question here from Kirby. He says, here's the real question. Is Lacey Evans going to work Lexi All Caps on Raw? I assume Lexi All Caps will be like a promo and then Sonya will like hit her and like grab her hair and be like real like mad about it. Because she's going to be crazy now, you know. Flair vs. Satnam Singh. Good lord, man. Effie and Flair and Ali. Good lord. Wow, that's quite a fault you've given me there, Hester. Okay. If Flair is wrestling because he's broke, I have a hard time believing it's just one more match. I don't know what his situation is, because I guess he's like, I mean, the podcast, like he obviously let's be honest, he left WWE with like full belief that he was going to AEW, because I think AEW believed the same thing, right? And then Dark Side of the Ring happened, and listen, you know, maybe it's 20 years late, but it was his actions he was held responsible for. So I ain't saying that's wrong, but that seems to be what happened. And then he immediately got back in the podcast game because, you know, pop. And that went as well as you'd expect. I don't know if he's restarting it with Conrad or not. I don't know if that's just made up. But will he do the flop? Probably, yes. It'll probably be very hard for him, though, to get back up after. I don't know. It's just hilarious to me that this is where we've ended up. If you'd told me a year ago, I actually would have said, yes, that makes a lot of sense. That sounds exactly right what would happen. So, there you go. He has restarted it. Okay, there you go. The podcast is still going. I'm sure it's making lots and lots of money. All right. There's some Ric Flair news to close out here in 2022. Great stuff. I'm looking here at my notes. Quick shout out. I know my pal Cody took the deep dive there, took the plunge into professional boxing on this past weekend, which popped me huge. You got a good fight. Real Charlo and Castano. I recommend it strongly. Brits, it is on the YouTube for free. And even if you're not a Brit, I'm sure you can find a way to access a free YouTube video that is simply location blocked and such. So that was very good. Shout out to him. I hope you enjoyed it, Cody. I've seen from your Twitter that you probably did. Charlo, Undisputed Champ. Boxing's been pretty good as of late. No one's watching it, but it's been pretty good. So I'll leave a quick shout out to him. Couple last questions here as we wrap up. We've got a couple minutes left. What is there for Flair to talk about if he can't complain about Charlotte's booking? Fair. I think one thing I'd like to see him tackle, Hester, personally, and this is just me, someone should ask him who he thinks is better between AJ Styles and Bryan Danielson. I think that would really be like something exciting and fresh. In fact, just ask him about Danielson in general. I think it could kind of unlock different topics. And, you know, so there you go. All right, I've seen that Bobby O'Neill was tweeted up and told, so we'll close with this. Maybe it's a sports prediction. I won't be sticking around Nashville for the Flair match, but in fairness, if they ran the match in my backyard, I'd go in my front yard. Oh, Bobby O'Neill is A again. Speaking of Bob, I want to quickly say this, because I never know, you know, how many of you are on the paywall and whatever, and how many of you just folks wanting to see a normal professional wrestling fan talk about New Japan, in which case, I'm sorry, I apologize. Tough luck on this one. Seriously, on Friday, we did the Late Night Grin, latenightgrin.com. And latenightgrin.com hosted I think it was episode 38 of the Late Night Grin, Evening News 2. And it is one of the more fun episodes we've ever done. Now, if you want professional wrestling talk, we hope to have you covered on this channel very, very regularly. But if you want horse shit, we did 3 hours of it and then we reviewed Rampage in the 4th. It was quite the scene. If you'd like to check out Late Night Grin on Fridays after Rampage, especially now that it's earlier, maybe it's easier for you to check out, you know, latenightgrin.com. You can sign up for just $1. There are no tiers, just grins. That was Friday. It was a blast. Looking ahead, though, 1 week from today, We are doing the Grin Grapple a little bit earlier than usual because Double or Nothing week I want to kind of really beef up and make special. So Grin Grappler William Wriggle, if you go to @LateNightGrin on Twitter, the playlist is there or the match lineup's there. In the same mind, I will actually tweet the Danielson equivalent just in case anyone's interested next someone asks for it. And I will ask Oracle to help me with the ON one too because I'm not an expert on that front. But yeah, big week ahead next week. Double or Nothing week. We're going to do the AEW draft. We're going to do a whole lot of stuff and just try and make it special the way we did with WrestleMania. And, lots coming up, but lots behind us in terms of ours. So if you're new here somehow, some way, and you don't think I'm a complete asshole, then meet all the other assholes on this platform. There's many of them. There's enough to share. So, I hope you've had a wonderful morning. Hope I helped some. Fuck the Boston Celtics. I'll see you tonight for Fed Dead Redemption. But in the meantime, please do enjoy this outro. All hell.